Washington state policies affect your safety, your taxes, and your family. Whether you pay attention or not, here we make sure you do. This is the Evergreen Report, and I'm your host, Jay. Here is where we expose the impact of local government so you can take action. Let's jump into our top story of the day. Today's top story: Washington Governor Ferguson, our amazingly terrible governor, Bob Ferguson, a $4 billion budget proposal. What's on the chopping block? Governor Ferguson has unveiled a budget proposal aiming to save $4 billion. How? Well, through job cuts, furloughs, and shifting reserve funds into the general budget. Yes, you heard that right. You absolutely heard that right. Shifting reserve funds into the general budget. We don't have a revenue problem here in Washington state. We have a spending problem here in Washington state. So what's at risk? Government stability, emergency preparedness, and long-term fiscal responsibility. So a little bit about both of these. So Governor Ferguson revealed a budget proposal for $4 billion in savings. We have a $15 billion deficit here in the state. So, it's quite a bit more than that. I really don't think Governor Ferguson is going to be able to balance this budget. I just don't think the Dems are capable of doing that because they want to spend, and find ways to spend. The announcement was made a few days ago. You can find more details. Look up this article. But they are proposing to move state reserves to the general fund. So the Democratic legislatures in Washington are proposing to transfer funds from the state reserves into the general fund to address budgetary needs. The move has sparked debate over fiscal responsibility and the potential impact on the state's financial stability. Critics worry that utilizing reserve funds could leave the state vulnerable in economic downturn, while proponents argue it's necessary to meet current funding requirements. It's absolutely not. We don't have a spending problem, or we don't have a revenue problem. We have plenty of revenue. It's just spent terribly. It's spent so poorly. The responsibility of those spending it, senators like Patty Murray lining their own pockets, we're sending it to these other pro-democratic groups, millions of dollars here, millions of dollars there, millions of dollars here. It adds up pretty quickly. Adds up very, very quickly. And it's not good. It's really sad to see it do that so quickly. So the $10 billion budget shortfalls, how do we get here? So the state operating budget is facing a multi-billion dollar shortfall ranging from 7 to 10 plus billion, depending on your assumptions about spending and revenue. In this case, we can look at two figures. The amount of money it would take to continue funding the state operations. Or let me pull this up because this is probably the best graphic that you're going to see. This is straight from the GOP. A little bit about the background here. You can pause, read it if you like. So we have plenty of tax revenue. So the tax revenue has grown by $18 billion since 2019. So where has it all gone? So since 2019, our enrollment's down, fewer Medicaid clients, and prison population is lower. So 2019, we overspent. 2021, 2023, we overspent. 2024, 2023 to 25, we overspent. 1.6, 2.6, 4.1. That's a lot of money right there. If we're just looking at that figure right there. That's 2.6 plus 1.9 plus 4.1. 8.6 billion. So a lot of our current deficit right there in just a few years laid paying, expending one-time funds for ongoing programs, failed program, member earmark, budget reform, much needed. With new taxes on jobs, innovation, and employers. But instead of economy killing taxes, the state needs structural budget reforms. House and Senate Republicans are offering legislation to increase transparency and accountability to ensure taxpayer dollars are being spent wisely, not just being spent. Please, they need to be spent wisely. Reduce spending to sustainable levels. Require regular zero-based budget reviews to identify programs that aren't working. House Bill 1225. Implement performance-based spending requirements. Senate Bill 5145. Prioritize spending for essential services like education, healthcare, and public safety. 1225. Reinstate a state spending limit. 5150. Spending limit, yes. Budget to official revenue forecast, but not optimistic assumption. Yes, actual forecast, not our assumption. Because we're humans, we're going to make mistakes. Eliminate member earmarks that are more than 5 years old. Yes. Reduce the quality, quantity, and frequency of non-essential agency reports. Yes. And then here we go. Have our total budget, and then how much is going to non-government funding organizations. So these are all, it's all just pretty much wasted money here. The money that's not being spent, non-government funding operation, non-government funded organization. So, or NGFRs or NGFOs. I'm pretty sure that's non-government funding operations, but I could be completely wrong there. But yeah, no, it's not essential spending, if I'm remembering that right. But we need to get rid of that. If we can get rid of all this, because why are we spending this money if we don't have it out of the total budget? Reinvest this into ourselves. That budget will decrease going forward rather quickly. So with that, that's our top story of the day. Let's get into the Evergreen Ledger. So first up on the Evergreen Ledger, this is our legislative roundup for the week or for the day. Last time we posted was on Thursday, so this is about since Thursday or so. House Bill 1092, wage replacement for undocumented workers. Expand eligibility for workers who can't receive unemployment due to immigration status. Funded by a new payroll tax surcharge on employers. Yay. Impact. Pro. Provides economic security for undocumented workers. Why? Con. Adds new tax burdens on businesses, increasing hiring costs. So, yeah, I don't think that's a good one. I am opposed on this one personally. So what it does, it focuses on enhancing regulations regarding fire or 1092. What the wage replacement for House Bill 1092 is actually about firearms. So this one got mixed up here. My bad, people. Or wait, maybe I had those two mixed up. That's fine. Anyways, so House Bill 1092 focuses on expanding the eligibility of workers to qualify for wage replacement if they are ineligible for unemployment benefits due to their immigration status. So this creates a wage replacement program for workers who are ineligible for unemployment insurance benefits based solely on not being authorized to work in the U.S. So why would we give them free money if they're not able to work here? That's my question, honestly. And that's kind of been my stance on most of these things. I try to stay kind of middle, but this one I just try to apply common sense for it. If someone comes to work for you or me and they can't work in the United States, I probably shouldn't hire them. But then if I do hire them and I'm paying them under the table or something, and they aren't able and they get fired or something, it's kind of a risk you got to take. You know, you can kind of lose that job at any moment. Things can change and whatnot, and it's a little sketchy. This one's weird. It doesn't make a lot of sense. It's odd. It's really odd. I don't like it. So establishes a wage replacement surcharge on payroll taxes paid by employers to fund the program, which is going to make it harder for businesses to operate, which you don't want. You don't want it harder for businesses to operate. Create an advisory committee. Ooh, yay. An appointed committee that's probably just going to be full of people who may know what they're doing or may not. I don't know. To review issues related to wage replacement. So who is impacted the most here? Undocumented workers who lose their job but are not eligible for traditional unemployment benefits. Employers who will be required to contribute additional payroll taxes. Washington State unemployment system, which will have to manage and oversee this new program. The program will be funded by a new payroll tax surcharge on certain employers. The surcharge is 0.01% for 2026 and 2027 and will be adjusted in later years. So the overall impact on the average person for undocumented workers, it still provides financial security if they lose employment. For employers, it adds a new tax burden, potentially increasing the cost of hiring workers. For the state economy, it could provide some economic stability to a group of workers who otherwise lack financial safety net. I can also see what's happening here is that it's going to be harder if you do actually lose your job and you are American. Again, of course, this is prioritizing immigrants over and undocumented immigrants and people who are here illegally and aren't authorized to work in the United States, prioritizing them over the actual Washingtonians like yourself and me. And the issue with that is, let's say you lose your job and you actually need to go file for unemployment. But again, it goes back to that bill we talked about last week with the clemency and the pardons. The same concept right there. And if it does do that, then it's going to be so incredibly difficult to, I just had a brain fart. It's gonna be so incredibly difficult to get your unemployment if you actually need it because you're gonna be last in line, essentially for something you should be first in line for. By just working, by just being part of the state, by being an American citizen. Senate Bill 5103, election process changes, expands early voting and enhances ballot security. Impact. Pro, easier access to voting. Con, higher election costs, potential delays in voting count. Let me break this one down a little bit more for you. That's just a brief, 30,000 foot view. Let me try to get into about a 10,000 foot view here. The focus is on modifying election processes and expanding voter accessibility in Washington state, adjust requirements for voter registration for ballot processing, increases oversight for election security, expands early voting opportunities, who it impacts the most, voters who may see changes in how they register and vote, election officials who will need to implement new security measures, candidates and political parties, depending on how changes in registration and ballot handling affect elections. Funding. The bill will require state funding for implementation of election security measures. I mean, if we're already running at a $15 billion deficit, I don't see where the money's going to come from a program like this. Counties may need additional resources to comply with new rules. Yep. And where's that money going to come from? Who knows? Probably from your taxes and more taxes. Overall impact on the average person for voters, local registration and early voting opportunities for local government, potential cost increases for elections, for election security, enhanced oversight to prevent fraud and mismanagement, which would be a good thing. Clean out those voter rolls, get them cleaned out, get them completely clean, is what we need. We need more security with our elections, not elections where you can just show up and do whatever. I'm trying to see where I'm at on this bill real quick, because I'm pretty sure I put something in on this bill. Maybe I didn't. I think this is the one I didn't put anything in on. That's okay. But yeah. So I'm not sure where I'm at on this bill. I just want to let you guys know about it. Feel free to go research it a little bit more. You can always research it and make an informed decision for yourself. That's what I highly encourage you to do. Don't just take my word for it, because I may have an opinion. You may have a different opinion. You may see something and learn something one way that I maybe didn't see or maybe didn't catch. I review a lot of bills. So, and then Senate Bill 5027, stricter penalties for election crimes. Yes, good. You want people to be held accountable. Increases criminal penalties for election fraud. Yes. Impact, pro, better election integrity. Con, could lead to longer verification times for ballots. No, they should all be pre-verified. You should have to show your ID. You should have some kind of voter ID for elections. We want better election integrity. Democrats don't, but I think majority of just common sense people do want to have a safe, secure election. That's fair, regardless. So 5027 strengthens penalties for election-related crimes and modifies ballot security measures. Enhances criminal penalties for election fraud, requiring additional training for election officials. Good. Modifies ballot verification processes. Good. Who it impacts the most? Election workers who will need to comply with stricter security procedures. Darn, you have to do your job. Sorry, that's just kind of my take on it. Voters who may experience longer verification times. Okay, we get pre-verified voter ID, something like that. We need something like that in the interim here to set up for these two bills to make elections and election crimes stricter and more secure. Candidates and political parties, depending on how new security measures affect election outcomes. I mean, that's a good thing, right? Because then the incumbents, the Democrats, the Patty Murrays of the world, will be able to know that they actually have to have competition, and they actually will have competition, and there actually is an open and free market for elections, and it's a democracy truly, and people can campaign and run and compete, and it's not just going to be blue no matter who. People can actually get out in front of people, and these elections will be a lot closer than we probably think they will be. Funding. This will likely require state funding for implementation, and counties may need increased election security budget. So I was kind of wet my whistle there. Crime and consequences. Let's talk a little bit about public safety. HB 1399. I think we've talked about this one a little bit before. This is the one that I just want to continue to bring attention to, because I think we've talked about it twice now, so this will be the third time talking about it. It's still going through. Basically, what this bill does is it modernizes law enforcement hiring, and the gist of it is that they can now appoint. What they want to do is take sheriffs and marshals and those other elected positions within our police staff and turn them into appointed positions, so that the elected officials can appoint whomever they choose, whomever they want to those positions. Yeah, it's not ideal, because those should be voted on positions. I think some states are different, some counties are different even, but that's just something across the board that I want to see kept in our state. I don't want to see law enforcement be appointed to these positions, because that just is going to set up for poorer public safety. Depending on who is appointed, there's going to be some really good ones, but there's going to also be a lot that are, how can I phrase it? A lot that are special hires that may or may not actually be qualified for the job that they're getting, versus having to run and having to campaign and whatnot, then that's completely different. That comes from within, that comes from grassroots operations. Those are sheriffs and other law enforcement that need those chiefs and those sheriffs that are, been more hardworking, that are elected by the people for the people, and that will take the job that much more seriously. So that's what I believe. I believe that the election process is much better for those roles. Senate Bill 5071, Criminal Sentencing Reform, expands eligibility for early release and sentence reduction. Impact Pro encourages rehabilitation and cuts prison costs, which is a good thing. Potential risk to public safety. So if we're releasing people too early, it can be bad. If we're keeping them too long, that can be bad. If we're not rehabilitating them, that can also be really bad. Cutting prison costs is really good, and helping get us away from the prison industrial complex. 5071 modifies criminal justice sentencing policies, allowing more discretion for judges in modifying sentences. So, again, there should also be an explanation to why the judge is doing this built into this. Expands eligibility for sentence reductions, allow courts to consider post-sentencing rehabilitation, grants more discretion for early releases in certain cases, which isn't always a good thing. You don't always want people just to be released early because whatever simple reason. Who this impacts: inmates serving long sentences who may become eligible for early release, judges and prosecutors who must implement new guidelines, victims and their families, depending on how resentencing affects their cases. What I can really see happening here is this helps the wrong people more than it helps the right people. And that's really sad, because you want it to help the right people. You want it to help those who are actually falsely in prison, who have falsely been there for too long, who have falsely gotten the conviction, not someone who may be here illegally, who have raped, murdered, or hurt someone seriously that isn't supposed to be in our country, period. And then them getting off scathe-free with the law and being the beneficiaries of this. So that's how I see it happening, unfortunately, because that's just kind of Washington State. It's unfortunate and brings some pain to my heart. And, I wish the victims and their families, they got better, right? They got better justice, but they don't. The bill may reduce prison costs by shortening sentences for eligible offenders. There could be additional costs for court proceedings related to resentencing. Of course, there will be. Impact for the average person, for incarcerated individuals, it increased opportunities for early release. For victims and their families, potential concerns about reduced sentences, and then for taxpayers, possible savings for reduced prison population, but also the wrong people could be back on the streets committing more crimes, and we're just stuck in this cycle, stuck in this cycle, stuck in this cycle, stuck in this cycle, stuck in the cycle, stuck in the cycle. And we don't want to be stuck in the cycle here on a bill like this with people coming in and out of prison. We don't want to be stuck in that cycle where they go, they come back, they get out, they go, they come back, they get out, and they just get to hurt and hurt and hurt, cause more crime, and hurt more and more Americans and more Washingtonians. So definitely a big public safety risk here, and something just to think about here. So please go do research. Senate House Bill 1399, Senate House Bill 5071. Go and take a look at both of those, as well as so far we've covered House Bill 1092-71. Next, jump into the tax trap. Moving kind of fast here because we're on a time crunch. So the tax trap. Let's talk a little bit about taxes and budget. House Bill 1356, school funding and property taxes. This one is basically taking the cap off levies, as well. Let me see if I can find it, because I'm pretty sure I talked about this one last week. I don't want to spend too much time here. 1356 removes levies, which will increase property taxes, which will make it harder to buy a home. They don't want to make it easier for people to get a home. They want to make it harder. There's already super high property taxes. We already spend so much per pupil in this state. I don't understand how the schools need more money. Again, it's a spending problem. It's not a budget problem. It's a spending problem. Do I want well-funded schools? Yes. Do we already have well-funded schools? Absolutely. We have some of the highest in the country as a state. Do we have different problems? Yes, absolutely. Curriculum problems. Look at where our math scores, and I showed you guys that graphic last week sometime. How budgets has gone up 110%, but our scores in math and reading have fallen off sharply since 2019, especially. So that's, again, something to think about. We already talked about the proposal to move reserve funds to the general budget problem. It's a spending problem, and I just want people to understand that it's not a revenue problem. It's a spending problem. We should not take our reserve funds and move them into the the general fund because that's so risky. It does provide immediate budget relief. We're not thinking long term. We have to think long term when it comes to budget. It's not an overnight thing. Yes, it'd be great to balance the budget and call it a day, but you have to cut spending dramatically. You have to find where the wasted money's going to, first and foremost. And then you have to stop spending on non-government funding. You have to spend it on government things. You have to spend it on what we are paying our tax dollars to be there for. Infrastructure could use a lot of help. There's a lot of things that really need a lot of help in lining the pocket of politicians. That's just my thoughts on that one. But go ahead and go check this proposal out for yourself. Again, I always encourage you guys to not just take what I say. I'm giving you like a 30,000-foot view on all of this, just to kind of get you thinking about like, maybe I should go look at that. I encourage you, please go look at it. Please go do some more research. So fentanyl and fallout. So drugs and homelessness. Not a very big segment here today. Just a little bit to cover. And again, this is an article here locally, here in Benton, Franklin County, that happened over the weekend. A Benton City man arrested for a deadly fentanyl-related crash. A fatal Highway 224 crash resulted in a Sunnyside driver's death. Suspect under the influence of fentanyl. So again, it's so unfortunate to see these deaths. People driving under the influence, and especially fentanyl-related, because fentanyl fucks you up. Straight up, I'm not even trying to swear. I apologize, but fentanyl messes you up like bad, like really bad, and it's one of the deadliest ones out there, as we see in this case. Could have been 2 lives. It was only 1. So God bless the drivers who passed away. Who passed away. Like I said, my condolences to you and to your family, to your loved one. That was somebody's brother, cousin, uncle, son, daughter. I'm not sure who. No, it was yeah, we don't know who, but that was somebody, and yeah, I feel really bad when these innocent lives are taken because of someone's irresponsibility with drugs. Drugs are bad, kids. Fentanyl's really bad. Stay away from it if you can. It's one that we have a deadly crisis here in Washington, especially here in the Tri-Cities. We have a deadly outbreak here of fentanyl, and it's something that needs to get a handle on it. It needs a handle on it. So my condolences to the deceased. This crash occurred Saturday evening, resulting in death of a driver from Sunnyside, like I said. Yeah, it was a head-on collision about a mile east of Benton City. So it's really sad. Really sad. All right. Let's move on here. So a couple more things in just local news that I really wanted to hit right here, fentanyl fallout. Not really related to drugs and homelessness, but I don't really have a local news segment, but I wanted to hit 3 things here, especially because we hit public safety. King County, woman charged with embezzling from Richland Washington Booster Club. A 45-year-old woman has been accused of embezzling over $6,000 from a cheer program in Richland. She allegedly used the funds to support her struggling family. Desperate times call for desperate measures, right? It just goes to show how unaffordable Washington has become, that people are embezzling from their kids' cheerleading program to support their lives, because they don't see any other options. At times they're so desperate and times are so hard that they're like, oh well, this may be my only option. This may be the only thing that I have available to me, so I'm gonna go and do it. So it's hard. It's hard to see. It's really hard to see that happening. And then also we have a few more segments here, and we're gonna wrap up super quick. It's, like I said, moving really fast through episodes today, but it's really important. King County, Washington, infant tests positive for measles. Guys, come on. I understand the vaccines. I understand that everyone has their opinions on them, but measles, mumps, MNRRA, or whatever the heck it is. Let's get our babies like those essential shots, and then you can decide on all the rest, right? But the ones that are to eradicate these deadly diseases from pioneer days, let's keep those gone, right? I don't think anyone wants to lose their child to measles. I don't think, especially when it can turn into a more infectious version, and it's really bad. So please think again about vaccinating your kids. When it comes to these things. An infant in King County has been diagnosed with measles, making the first confirmed case in Washington resident this year. This case was reported about 5 days ago. So go ahead and go do some more research on that, but that's something I really wanted to highlight there because it's so important in our local news to see that and to be like, whoa, this is here now. And it's something that we need to be aware of. Has it happened in years past? Yes. But again, it's something that becoming more and more common, and we want to become less and less common. Definitely has gone up since the anti-vax movement of kids getting measles, mumps, and these deadly prehistoric diseases that we thought are gone. They're not gone. They're still very much here. That's just something to continue to think about there. All right, let's jump into the schoolhouse scramble. So, schoolhouse scramble, education and family. There's not much as terms of education-related bills. We've been covering them pretty rapidly, and the biggest one is House Bill 1356, affects students, parents, property owners with the levy. That's kind of the biggest one right now that I'm trying to keep up on and keep moving through. There's, of course, other controversial bills. There's the firearm regulations bill. There's the juvenile justice reform, 5103. There's the child welfare, 1399. Parental rights, but may make child abuse interventions more difficult. Of course, there's always a trade-off where it can't just be child safety for anything. Then, of course, we didn't even touch on 5726, the road usage charge, which I think has been getting enough news cycles. So if we were going to cover that, I would have covered it up in the tax trap, because that's definitely a big tax trap in itself. To where they want to charge you per mile, and then they want to tax that full thing right there. Something to think about. Of course, the most impactful bills are, of course, the 1334, the property tax cap change, which would increase property taxes. 5027, workforce development, impacts employers and employees through new workplace regulations. I think we covered 5027. Yeah, we did. No. Senate Bill 5027. My bills are all messed up today. We didn't even cover that one. Election-related crime, criminal justice, 5103, election fraud, 1356, funding, substitute 5380, financial support programs. We didn't really get into that one. 1092, spending eligibility. Oh, okay, workforce replacement. Okay, we didn't get into all of them. That's okay. Not really too worried there about getting into all of them. Completely fine. There's a lot of bills out there, right? I typically repost. If you follow me over on X, you can definitely see all the bills that I'm following and trying to research here, and bring to your attention. Over on X, I repost the ones that I feel strongly that you should also go and oppose, or the ones that you should go and support. You can follow me over on X at Evergreen Report. That's Evergreen Report. Same over on Instagram as well now. Anyways, 1356, the school funding is also one that going to affect property owners, but also affect students, parents, and whatnot. Though that's a very big impactful one here. You should just be aware of 100%, track that one. But the biggest schoolhouse scramble news of the week here that I am just so in love with, and shout out to the Tumwater School Board. Shout out to the Tumwater School Board, and you can compare this to the national level, because all the sitting House Democrats voted to not allow an amendment to Title IX, keeping biological males out of women's sports. They voted to not do that. Every single Democratic senator voted not to do that. Every single female Democratic senator voted not to do that. Every single Democratic senator voted to not protect our girls. My girls. Your girls. Every single one of them. Protect their private spaces, protect their sports, protect their competition, to allow these biological boys who are just not as good at their sport as the actual boys to go and compete, change their gender, go and compete, to encourage, a form of mental illness, to encourage, invade these personal spaces of women and girls, every single one of them. That sink in. How much do they care about your daughter? How much do they care about my daughter? Does it feel like a lot? No, doesn't. But God bless the Tumwater School Board for standing up and leading, being an absolute leader and outspoken voice for Washington State. They vote to ban transgender girls from girls' sport. The school board voted 3-1 to prohibit transgender athletes from competing in girls' sports. Impact. Pro. Supporters argue it protects fairness and competition. Absolutely. Critics say it's discriminatory and violates the inclusivity policy. Who gives a shit? Protect our daughters. Protect our women. Protect our children. Get these transgender athletes some help. Let them go and compete in the sport with their biological buddies. That's one weird way to say it, but go and compete with the biology that you are supposed to compete with, and if you're the worst, then you're the worst. Oh well, that's an even playing field for you. A biological boy coming over to a girl's sport and absolutely dominating, not fair. Not fair to the girls that are actually working hard. Not fair to the girls that are actually working their asses off to compete, to make something, to make a name, to maybe go to the next level and compete college, maybe beyond that too. It's not fair to them. Not fair to them. These biological boys shouldn't get a leg up in these sports and these athletics. They need to be kept out, far out. And I'm so grateful for the Tumwater School Board leading the charge there. So on March 3rd, House Democrat Bill 1390, repealing the Community Protection Program. We jumped into that one, but they voted to repeal the Community Protection Program, which safeguards the public from individuals convicted of sex crimes or those who or history of violence, stalking, or other predatory behavior. The program relies on assessments by qualified professionals, which are probably appointed and pre-selected to identify individuals who pose a risk to public safety. So they did vote on this bill to repeal it, which is, we should be giving harsher penalties to people, not softer penalties. Oh, I didn't even cover this one. I didn't even cover the Senate joint resolution. Okay, we're going to jump into the woke wire because this one's absolutely crazy. So the woke wire today, crazy headline of the week, and this one's actually bonkers. Shout out to Brandy Cruz. She is one of my favorite. Shout out to Brandy. She is a big inspiration for me. I want to be like her when I grow up. She's amazing. So 25 Democratic senators in Washington State just came out in support of abortions up to birth, gender surgeries for kids at any age, and no parental notice for consent. What? Senator Slater, Standing, Cleveland, Hingra, Saldana, Alvarado, Valdez, Peterson. Of course, Jamie Peterson's name is on this. Solomon, Cortez, Orwell, Conway, Lovelet, Nobles, Shoemake, Lovick, Raquel, Ramos, Regasque, Frame, Leela, C. Williams, Wilson, Stanford, Coffin, and Robinson. So those are all your senators that are in support of this. The Senate Joint Resolution 8204. This is so sad. So they're supporting abortions all the way up to birth, while also tying in gender surgeries for kids at any age without any parental consent, notice, or consent. This is wild. What? This is the policy of all the senators, which is going to be the mainstream policy of Washington State now, which I don't want that to be my policy. I don't want to see babies killed all the way up to death. That's a full human being. I broke it down before in the past. I've broken it down in the past on the Young Dad podcast, to where, we have a huge amount of families that want to adopt, that want to foster, but yet we have babies that are being killed all the way up to death. This is outrageous. Further eroding to parental rights in Washington State. Any age. I'm just looking through the comment here. The 14th Amendment due process clause protects parental rights by requiring states to provide certain procedural protections in cases involving children. The Supreme Court has, so again, we are not even following the 14th Amendment in our land. If this is actually passed, this will have long-term election implications. I would say the average person doesn't want this. They don't want abortions up to birth. They don't want gender surgeries at any age. And parents want to be notified. Parents should have to get consent, but trying to strip away our right, this is so bad. And of course, Patty Murray and Senator Cantwell both voted against the women's right. And not one Democrat voted to advance the bill that would protect women and girls in sports by banning biological men. It needed 60 votes to advance without filibuster, but not one Democrat voted for it. Women, Trump was right. Rats are for they, them. We're for you and your daughters. That's coming from Robbie Starbuck over on X. But yeah, it's unbelievable. Motion to invoke, that's crazy. That not one Democrat voted, not one Democratic woman voted to protect women and girls. I just want that to sink in so much here. I hope God has mercy on us. I really do. I really do. Because we need his mercy so bad. Oh, also, Democrats also rejected a ban on child porn in library and on minors accessing pornographic materials in libraries in the state as well. Yeah, but this other bill, the Democrats introduced a constitutional amendment to protect abortion access. The kicker, they buried the line that includes gender-affirming care. They are going to trick voters in supporting child mutilation by tying it to abortion. Yep, they've now tied those two together. They've tied those two agendas into one. This is too much weird. It's too much weird for the ordinary person. I want everyone to realize this. I want everyone to go and research this and go and get educated about this. I want everyone to please. I'm going to do it right now. And I'm going to put the link, share the screen. I'm going to do it. I'm not going to do it on there because I want you guys to see all my information like that and whatnot and dox myself. But right here, go here, oppose this. This bill is absolutely disgusting. Oppose. Please. Oppose. Please. Begging you. Don't let our state go to this. Don't let our state go to this. This is the pinnacle right here. If we let this go, who knows what's next? We have more. It's just stuck. between this and then also Democrats, when 60% are Democrats, regular people oppose men and girls sports, they still said, no, we're going to continue to push our radical agenda, and this is something Trump wants, so we are not going to do it. No ifs, ands, or buts, and not even caring about protecting our women and girls. It solely comes down to something political, and that's wrong, that's nasty, that's deceptive, and I am really disappointed in our Democrats in D.C. I'm really disappointed in our state Democrats just trying to push this bill across and be like, oh yeah, it's for abortion. But no, we're actually going to take more parental rights and also gender affirming care along with it. It's disgusting. It is absolutely disgusting. But yeah, that's our woke wire. So we're going to skip over the world today, Washington versus the world state comparison. It was more just, taxes, cost of living things, very similar to what we talked about last week. Your voice matters, again, always. I had a listener question this week. How will moving reserve funds to the general budget affect us? So the answer on that one, it could be short-term relief, but long-term risk in an economic downturn. And that's the simple of it. Kind of broke that down throughout the podcast. So thank you for your question. And go ahead and continue to send those in. Send those over on X. Send those over on Instagram now at AVERGRENRPT on both X and Instagram. If you want to make your voice heard, contact your representatives. You can do so, of course, always by going and making your voice heard on these bills. And also contacting your senators. You can always find those. If you got a story or a concern, send us a message. We might feature it in our next episode. If you follow us on X and Instagram for real-time updates. And yeah. Know the facts, demand better, take action. See you next time right here on the Evergreen Report.